The waitress smiled and lied. Mama ate earlier. Her 2 kids believed her. But the bikers watching from across the diner knew the truth, and they weren't the type to let good mothers fight alone. The neon sign outside Danny's diner flickered twice before settling into a dull hum. It was 9:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, the kind of night where the highway stretched empty and the only customers were truckers, insomniacs, or people with nowhere better to be. Jess Morgan wiped down table 6 for the 3rd time that hour. Her shoulders ached. Her feet screamed inside shoes held together with duct tape on the inner sole. But she smiled anyway, because in 7 minutes, her shift would end, and she could finally sit down with her kids. They sat in the corner booth like they always did. Emma, age 7, swung her legs under the table, her worn sneakers catching the light. Mason, only 5, pressed his face against the window, drawing shapes in the condensation with his finger. "Mama's almost done," Jess called softly. Emma looked up and smiled, the kind of smile that made everything worth it. Near the back, a group of 8 bikers occupied 3 pushed-together tables. Their leather vests bore patches, a roaring bear, the words, Iron Ridge MC, and names stitched in red thread. They were loud but respectful, the kind of regulars who tipped well and never caused trouble. Ryder Kane sat at the head of the table. Chapter Sergeant. Mid-40s, graying beard, eyes that missed nothing. He'd been coming to Danny's for years, long enough to recognize the regulars, and long enough to notice when something was wrong. Tonight, something was wrong. Jess returned to the kitchen and came back holding a single kid's meal, chicken tenders, a handful of fries, and a small cup of fruit. She walked it to the corner booth, set it down gently, and slid into the seat beside her children. That's when Ryder stopped mid-sentence. The other bikers kept talking, but Ryder's attention locked on the corner booth. He watched as Jess picked up a plastic knife and carefully divided the 3 chicken tenders. 1 for Emma. 1 for Mason. Half of 1 for herself. She did the same with the fries. Counted them out like poker chips. 12 for Emma. 12 for Mason. The rest, maybe 8, pushed onto her napkin. The fruit cup was split into 2 small piles. She didn't take any. "Mama, are you not hungry?" Mason asked, his voice small. Jess smiled, brushed hair from his forehead. "Mama ate earlier, baby. You eat up, okay?" It was such a smooth lie. Practiced. Painless. But Ryder saw the truth in the way her hand trembled slightly as she set down the knife. In the way her eyes lingered on the fries just a second too long. He'd seen that look before. In shelters. In the eyes of veterans who came back broken. In his own mirror, years ago, before the club pulled him out of the dark. "Boss," one of the bikers, a younger guy named Creed, leaned over. "You good?" Ryder didn't answer. He was still watching. Emma ate slowly, savoring every bite. Mason stuffed 3 fries in his mouth at once, grinning. And Jess nibbled at her half chicken tender like it was a 5-course meal, making it last, pretending it was enough. "I know that woman," muttered Vince, one of the older bikers, a man with a scar running through his left eyebrow. "Works doubles here most weeks. Got 2 kids. No husband I've seen." "She's a good mama," added Malik, the club's treasurer. "Always make sure those kids are fed, clean, polite. But I've never seen her eat a full meal herself." Ryder's jaw tightened. He'd ridden with men who'd die for their brothers. He'd buried friends who gave their last breath protecting someone else. Loyalty, sacrifice, those were codes he understood. But this? A mother starving herself so her kids could eat? That was a different kind of warrior. Jess finished her portion in 4 bites. She wiped her hands on a napkin, then pulled out a small notebook from her apron pocket and started scribbling, "Bills, most likely." Numbers that didn't add up no matter how many times she rearranged them. The diner door swung open. A man walked in. Late 20s, designer jeans, fresh haircut, cologne that announced him before he even spoke. He wore a leather jacket, not the earned kind, but the kind bought online to look tough. Tyler Morrison. Ryder recognized him instantly. So did half the table. "Oh hell," Vince muttered. Creed leaned in. "That's the guy who tried to prospect last month, right?" "Yep." Ryder's voice was flat. "Showed up with a brand new Harley he clearly couldn't ride, bragged about his income, talked over the veterans. We voted him out in under 10 minutes. Tyler strutted toward the corner booth like he owned the place. Jess's face went pale. She quickly closed her notebook and tucked it away, then turned to her kids. "Emma, Mason, stay here, okay?" "But Mama." "Stay." Her voice was gentle but firm. The kids went silent. Jess stood and met Tyler halfway, near the counter, trying to keep distance between him and the booth. Trying to keep her children out of it. "You can't just show up like this," she said quietly, her voice steady despite the tension in her shoulders. Tyler laughed, loud, performative. "It's a public diner, Jess. Relax. What do you want?" "I want you to stop calling me. Stop texting. Stop trying to squeeze money out of me like I'm some kind of ATM." Jess's hands clenched at her sides. "You owe child support, Tyler. Court ordered. You haven't paid in 4 months. Court ordered," he mocked, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "You dragged me to court to make me look like a deadbeat. That's on you. You are a deadbeat." The words came out before she could stop them. Tyler's smile vanished. He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a hiss. "You're poisoning my kids against me. They're our kids. And you don't call, you don't visit, you don't help. So don't stand here and pretend you care." Tyler's face flushed red. "I've got a life, Jess. I've got plans. I'm not gonna be stuck paying for your mistakes." "My mistakes?" Her voice cracked, but she held her ground. "I'm raising them alone while you drive a $50,000 car. That's called success. Maybe if you worked harder. I work 70 hours a week." Silence. Tyler shifted, uncomfortable now, aware that people were watching. Including the bikers. He forced a smirk. "Whatever. I'll see you in court, again. And this time, my lawyer's gonna bury you." He turned and walked out, letting the door slam behind him. Jess stood frozen for a moment, her breathing shallow. Then she turned back to her kids, forced a smile, and slid into the booth like nothing had happened. But Ryder saw her hands shaking as she reached for her water glass. Vince leaned over. "We really gonna just sit here?" "Not yet," Ryder said quietly. "But we're not sitting for long." He pulled out his phone and opened the club's group chat. "Ryder, emergency meeting. Clubhouse. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. No excuses." 3 dots appeared immediately. Then 5 confirmations. Creed frowned. "What's the play, boss?" Ryder watched as Jess helped Mason with his seatbelt jacket, as Emma carefully folded her napkin. "We're gonna fix this," Ryder said. "Clean, legal, and tight." The parking lot was dark except for a single flickering streetlight that barely reached the edges of the gravel. Jess held Mason's hand in her left, Emma's in her right, walking carefully around the potholes she'd memorized over months of closing shifts. Their apartment was 6 blocks away. No car. No bus route this late. Just a quiet walk under dim streetlights, the kind of routine that had become survival. "Mama, my feet hurt," Mason whimpered. "I know, baby. Almost home." Emma stayed quiet, but Jess felt her daughter's grip tighten. Emma always knew when something was wrong. 7 years old and already reading the room like an adult. They were halfway across the lot when headlights swung in fast, too fast, and a silver Audi screeched to a stop 10 feet in front of them. Jess's heart dropped. Tyler stepped out, slamming the door behind him. Even in the darkness, she could see the designer sneakers, the Tag Heuer watch catching the light, the arrogance in his posture. "We're not done talking," he called out. "Yes, we are." Jess pulled the kids closer. "Go home, Tyler." "Not until you stop playing victim." He walked toward them, hands in his pockets like this was casual. Like he wasn't cornering his ex-wife and children in an empty parking lot at night. "Daddy?" Mason's voice was small, confused. Tyler didn't even look at him. "You're making me look bad, Jess," Tyler continued, his voice rising. "Calling lawyers, filing complaints, telling people I don't take care of my kids. You're trying to destroy my reputation." "Your reputation?" Jess's voice shook, but not from fear, from rage she'd swallowed for too long. "You don't pay child support. You don't call. You don't show up. I'm not destroying anything, you're doing that yourself. I have expenses. I've got a business to run, a life to build. I can't just throw money at you every time you. Every time I what? Feed our children? Keep a roof over their heads?" Tyler stepped closer. Too close. "You chose this," he hissed. "You wanted the divorce. You wanted full custody. So don't come crying to me when it gets hard." Jess felt Mason press into her leg, trembling. Emma stood frozen, her face pale. "Get in the car, Tyler," Jess said quietly, her voice shaking now. "Before I call the police." He laughed, cold, mocking. "And tell them what? That I talked to you? Good luck." From across the lot, the low rumble of motorcycles echoed. The bikers had just finished paying their tab. 8 of them walked out together, engines idling, leather creaking in the night air. They weren't looking for trouble, but Ryder's eyes found the scene immediately. Jess. Her kids. Tyler standing too close, too aggressive. Ryder raised one hand, stopping the group. "Hold." They stood near their bikes, watching. Not intervening, yet. But ready. Tyler noticed them and hesitated, his bravado flickering. He took a small step back but didn't leave. "This isn't over, Jess," he said, his voice quieter now, more controlled. "You're not gonna bleed me dry because you can't handle your own life." "I handle everything," Jess whispered. "Everything you walked away from." Tyler's jaw clenched. For a second, something almost human crossed his face, shame, maybe, or regret, but it vanished as quickly as it came. He turned, walked back to his Audi, and revved the engine louder than necessary. Gravel sprayed as he peeled out of the lot, taillights disappearing down the highway. Jess stood there, still holding her children's hands, her chest heaving. Emma looked up. "Mama, are you okay?" Jess nodded, blinking back tears she refused to let fall. "I'm okay, baby. Let's go home." She started walking again, slower now, her legs shaking. Ryder watched them go. He didn't approach. Didn't call out. Just watched until they turned the corner and disappeared into the neighborhood streets. Vince came up beside him. "That the same guy from before?" "Yeah." He pushed her. "I know." Malik crossed his arms. "We just gonna let that slide?" Ryder turned to face his crew. 8 men, all watching him, waiting for the call. "No," Ryder said slowly. "But we're not doing this half-baked. We do it smart, or we don't do it at all." Creed frowned. "What's the play?" Ryder pulled out his phone and scrolled back through old club records. Meeting notes. Prospect reviews. "Tyler Morrison," he said, showing the screen. Tried to join the club 5 weeks ago. Showed up on a bike he couldn't handle, talked about his income for 20 minutes straight, name-dropped people he didn't know. Disrespected the veterans. Treated the prospects like servants. Vince nodded. I remember. We voted him out unanimous. Right. Because he's selfish, unreliable, and fake. Ryder pocketed his phone. Now we know why. He's too busy buying watches and cars to take care of his own kids. Malik's face darkened. So what do we do? Ryder looked back toward the street where Jess had disappeared. We've seen that man before, he said quietly. We know exactly who he is. And we know what he's not. A father, Vince muttered. Exactly. Ryder swung his leg over his bike. Clubhouse. Tomorrow morning. 9 sharp. We're putting this to a vote. Creed grinned. Vote for what? Ryder started his engine, the rumble cutting through the night. Whether we're gonna stand by and watch a good mother go down. Or whether we're gonna do something about it. He didn't wait for a response. He kicked off, and one by one, the others followed. 8 engines roared into the night. And for the first time in months, someone was paying attention to Jess Morgan. The Iron Ridge Clubhouse sat at the end of a gravel road, tucked between oak trees and a rusted chain-link fence. It wasn't much to look at, a converted warehouse with patched siding and a hand-painted sign, but it was sacred ground to the men who gathered there. By 9 a.m., every seat was filled. Ryder stood at the head of the table, arms crossed, waiting as the last few members trickled in. Vince poured coffee from a dented pot. Malik flipped through his tablet, pulling up files. Creed leaned back in his chair, toothpick between his teeth. 12 men total. Veterans, mechanics, a retired cop, a construction foreman. Different lives, same code. All right, let's get to it, Ryder said, his voice cutting through the murmurs. Most of you saw what happened last night. Woman named Jess Morgan, works at Danny's Diner. Got 2 kids. Ex-husband showed up, got aggressive, cornered her in the parking lot. Tyler Morrison, Vince added. The prospect we rejected. A few heads nodded. Others frowned, trying to remember. Malik tapped his tablet screen. I pulled his application. Tyler James Morrison, age 28. Applied to prospect 6 weeks ago. Claimed he owned a marketing firm, made 6 figures, wanted to join a brotherhood. Translation, Creed muttered. Wanted the jacket and the status. Exactly, Ryder said. He showed up on a brand new Softail he could barely ride, talked over everyone, bragged about his income, and treated the whole thing like a networking event. Vince leaned forward. Didn't he try to tip me $20 to park his bike? Yep, Ryder's jaw tightened. We voted him out in 10 minutes. Unanimous. Selfish, unreliable, no respect for the code. Malik swiped to another screen. Here's where it gets worse. Last night, I did some digging. Public records show Tyler was married to Jessica Morgan. Divorced 14 months ago. 2 kids, ages 5 and 7. Court ordered him to pay $1,200 a month in child support. And, someone asked. He's 4 months behind. Hasn't paid a dime since June. The room went silent. Ryder let it sit for a moment, then continued. Last night, I watched that woman split one kid's meal 3 ways. She gave her children almost everything and kept 2 bites for herself. Then her ex shows up in a $50,000 car, designer clothes, and has the nerve to tell her she's the problem. Son of a bitch, someone muttered. Meanwhile, Malik added, scrolling further, his social media is full of Vegas trips, bottle service, new watches. He's not broke. He's just refusing to pay. Vince slammed his hand on the table. So we go have a conversation with him. No, Ryder's voice was firm. We don't touch him. Not like that. Why the hell not? Because we're not thugs, Ryder said evenly. We do this clean, legal, and tight. We help her the right way, or we don't help at all. Creed sat up. What are you thinking? Ryder turned to the group. Tyler dodged us because he's a coward. But he's not scared of Jess, because she's alone. She's got no backup, no resources, no leverage. That's why he thinks he can get away with it. So we become her backup, Malik said slowly. Exactly, Ryder pointed at the table. We help her build a case. A real one. Evidence, documentation, witnesses. We get her a lawyer who actually fights. We make sure the court sees exactly who Tyler Morrison is. Vince frowned. And if he still doesn't pay? Then we make sure everyone knows, Ryder said. His clients, his business partners, his reputation. We don't touch him, but we make damn sure the world sees the truth. Malik nodded. My sister's a paralegal. She could help organize documents. I've got a cousin who's a family court attorney, added a biker named Hector, a stocky man with graying temples. Owes me a favor from way back. I'll call him. Creed leaned forward. What do we need from Jess? Everything, Ryder said. Bank statements, text messages, emails, pay stubs. Anything that proves he's dodging support while spending on himself. We build a timeline, a paper trail. Make it impossible for a judge to ignore. And if she doesn't want help, someone asked. Ryder paused. He'd thought about that all night. Then we respect that, he said quietly. But I don't think she'll say no. I think she's been fighting alone for so long, she forgot what it's like to have people in her corner. The room was silent for a beat. Then Vince spoke. I vote we do it. Second, Malik said immediately. All in favor? 12 hands went up. Not a single hesitation. Ryder nodded. All right. This stays quiet. We don't advertise, we don't make a scene. Creed, Malik, you're with me. We talk to Jess today, see if she's willing. Hector, call your cousin. Vince, start pulling anything public on Tyler, social media, business reviews, court records. On it. And one more thing, Ryder's voice dropped, harder now. Tyler Morrison doesn't know we're coming. And when he finally realizes what's happening, it'll be too late to stop it. Creed grinned. I like this plan. You should, Ryder said. Because we're not just helping a waitress. We're making sure 2 kids don't grow up thinking their father's neglect is normal. He looked around the table, at men who'd seen the worst of the world and chose to stand for something better. Good mothers deserve backup, Ryder said. Let's make sure she gets it. The meeting adjourned. And the Iron Ridge MC went to work. Jess was wiping down table 9 when the bell above the diner door chimed. She looked up and froze. 3 bikers walked in. Ryder in front, Malik and Creed flanking him. They weren't wearing their full cuts, just plain leather jackets, but the presence was unmistakable. Morning, Ryder said, his voice calm. Got a minute? Jess glanced toward the kitchen, where her manager was flipping eggs. I'm working. I know. This won't take long. She hesitated, then gestured to a corner booth. They sat. She stayed standing. If this is about last night. It is, Ryder said. But not the way you think. Jess crossed her arms, defensive. I don't need charity. Good. Because we're not offering any, Ryder leaned forward. We're offering help. Real help. Legal help. She blinked. What? Malik pulled a folder from his jacket. We know Tyler's been dodging child support. We know he's 4 months behind. And we know he's living like he's got money to burn. Jess's face went pale. How do you? Public records, Malik said gently. Court filings are accessible. We didn't dig into anything private. But we know enough to know you've been fighting this alone. And we want to help you fight back, Ryder added. Jess's eyes darted between them, confused, suspicious. Why? You don't even know me. We know enough, Ryder said. We know you're working yourself to the bone. We know you're feeding your kids before yourself. And we know your ex is a coward who thinks he can get away with it because you don't have backup. So we're offering to be your backup, Creed said simply. Jess sank into the booth across from them, her hands shaking. I can't afford a lawyer. I tried, I can't. You won't have to, Ryder said. We've got a family court attorney who owes us a favor. He'll take your case pro bono. But we need your help to build it. Build what? A case that's airtight, Malik explained. Text messages where Tyler dodges your calls. Emails where he makes excuses. Bank statements showing you're struggling while he's spending. Anything that proves he's deliberately avoiding his responsibility. Jess stared at the table. He'll fight back. He always does. Let him, Ryder said. This time, you won't be alone. For the first time in months, Jess felt something crack open inside her chest. Not hope, not yet, but something close to it. Okay, she whispered. What do you need? The next week moved like a well-oiled machine. Jess met with Hector's cousin, an attorney named David Chen, who walked her through every step. He was patient, thorough, and sharp as a blade. We're building a narrative, David explained during their first meeting. Tyler has the means but refuses to pay. You have the need and have been doing everything right. The judge needs to see that contrast. Malik's sister, a paralegal named Asha, helped organize everything into color-coded folders. Text messages printed and highlighted. Bank statements cross-referenced with dates. A timeline that showed every missed payment, every ignored call, every broken promise. Jess sat at her tiny kitchen table one night, staring at 3 years of documentation spread out before her. Emma and Mason were asleep in the next room. I didn't realize how much I'd kept, she murmured. Asha smiled softly. You kept it because part of you knew you'd need it someday. Creed, who had a knack for technology, pulled Tyler's public social media accounts. Screenshots of expensive dinners. Posts bragging about a weekend in Miami. A photo of a new watch with the caption, "Treat yourself." He's not even trying to hide it, Creed muttered, shaking his head. Vince tracked down Tyler's business records. Morrison Media Group, a small marketing firm that, according to public filings, pulled in over $300,000 a year. He's not broke, Vince confirmed. Not even close. David Chen reviewed everything with a lawyer's eye, cross-checking dates, validating sources, ensuring nothing could be challenged in court. This is solid, he said during their second meeting. Really solid. But I need one more thing. What? Jess asked. A statement from you. In your own words. What it's been like. What you've sacrificed. What your kids have gone without. Jess's throat tightened. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining. You're not complaining, David said gently. You're telling the truth. And the truth is powerful. That night, Jess sat down and wrote. 4 pages, handwritten, no edits. She wrote about splitting meals. About choosing between electricity and groceries. About her daughter asking why they couldn't go to the zoo like other kids. She wrote about lying to Mason when he asked if she was hungry. When she finished, she set the pen down and cried. For the first time in months, she let herself cry. 2 days before the court date, the crew gathered at the clubhouse one final time. David laid out the case on the table like a general planning a battle. We've got documentation, financial records, witness testimony, and a timeline that shows clear, willful negligence. Tyler's lawyer will try to discredit Jess, paint her as vindictive or greedy. But the numbers don't lie. Ryder looked at Jess, who sat quietly at the end of the table, hands folded. You ready? He asked. She looked up, and for the first time, her eyes weren't tired, they were sharp. I'm ready. Malik closed his folder. Then let's go to war. Jess shook her head slowly, a small smile forming. No one's ever helped me like this. Ryder stood, walked over, and placed a hand on her shoulder. Good mothers deserve backup, he said quietly. And you're about to get yours. The county courthouse smelled like old wood and stale air. Jess sat on a bench outside courtroom 3B, hands clasped so tightly her knuckles were white. She wore her only dress, a simple navy blue one she'd bought at a thrift store 3 years ago. It was clean, pressed, respectful. David Chen sat beside her, reviewing notes on his tablet. Remember, stay calm. Answer only what's asked. Don't let him get under your skin. I won't, Jess whispered, though her voice trembled. Emma and Mason were with a neighbor. Jess didn't want them here for this. They'd seen enough. Down the hall, a door opened, and Tyler walked in with his attorney, a man in a $1,000 suit with slicked back hair and a briefcase that probably cost more than Jess's monthly rent. Tyler wore a tailored charcoal suit, polished shoes, and a confident smirk. He glanced at Jess, then looked away dismissively, like she wasn't worth his time. His attorney leaned in, whispering something. Tyler chuckled. Jess's stomach turned. He thinks he's already won, she murmured. Let him think that, David replied. Overconfidence makes people sloppy. The courtroom doors opened. Morgan versus Morrison. Judge Callahan presiding. Jess stood, legs shaking, and walked inside. The courtroom was small, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Judge Callahan, a stern woman in her 60s with silver hair and sharp eyes, sat at the bench, reviewing files. Jess took her seat at the plaintiff's table. Tyler sat across the aisle, leaning back casually, whispering something to his lawyer. Then the back doors opened. 8 bikers walked in, single file, moving quietly to the back row. No patches. No colors. Just leather jackets and silent solidarity. Ryder sat in the middle. Vince on his left. Malik on his right. Creed, Hector, Asha, and 2 others filled the rest of the row. They didn't say a word. Didn't make a scene. They just Saturday. Tyler's head turned. His eyes widened slightly. His lawyer glanced back, frowning, then leaned over. Do you know them? Tyler's jaw tightened. No. But Ryder's eyes locked on him, steady, cold, unwavering. And Tyler looked away first. Judge Callahan banged her gavel. Let's proceed. Ms. Morgan, you're seeking enforcement of child support payments as outlined in your divorce decree, is that correct? Jess stood. Yes, Your Honor. And Mr. Morrison, you dispute this claim? Tyler's attorney stood smoothly. Your Honor, my client has been facing financial hardship and requests a modification of support based on changed circumstances. Financial hardship, Judge Callahan repeated, eyebrow raised. Let's see the evidence. David Chen rose. Your Honor, we'd like to present documentation that contradicts that claim. He approached the bench with a folder. Inside, printed bank statements, screenshots of social media posts, receipts, timelines, everything the crew had gathered. Mr. Morrison claims hardship, David said, yet his business, Morrison Media Group, reported over $300,000 in revenue last year. His personal spending includes a $52,000 vehicle purchase, frequent luxury travel, and high-end dining, all while refusing to pay court-ordered child support for 4 consecutive months. Tyler's lawyer stood quickly. Your Honor, revenue is not the same as personal income. I'm aware of the distinction, counsel, Judge Callahan said coolly. She flipped through the documents, her expression hardening with each page. David continued. Ms. Morgan works 70 hours per week as a waitress. She earns $1,800 a month. Her rent is $950. Utilities, $200. Groceries, childcare, clothing for 2 growing children. Your Honor, she's been splitting single meals 3 ways just to keep her kids fed. Judge Callahan looked up sharply. Is that true, Ms. Morgan? Jess stood, her voice barely above a whisper. Yes, Your Honor. And Mr. Morrison, you're aware of this? Tyler shifted uncomfortably. Your Honor, Answer the question. I've offered help, Tyler said quickly. But she refuses to communicate. David slid another document forward. Text message log, Your Honor. 14 unanswered messages from Ms. Morgan requesting support over the past 3 months. 6 voicemails. 2 certified letters. Mr. Morrison responded to none of them. Tyler's attorney tried to recover. Your Honor, my client has been under significant stress. So has Ms. Morgan, Judge Callahan interrupted. Except she's still feeding her children. The courtroom went silent. Tyler's face flushed red. His lawyer whispered urgently, but Tyler waved him off, leaning forward. Your Honor, I have a right to live my life. I shouldn't be punished just because she can't manage money. Mr. Morrison, Judge Callahan's voice cut like steel. You will not speak unless spoken to. Do you understand? Tyler's mouth snapped shut. Judge Callahan reviewed the final documents, bank statements, the timeline, Jess's handwritten statement. She read silently for what felt like an eternity. Finally, she set the papers down. Mr. Morrison, this court finds that you have willfully and deliberately avoided your legal obligations. You have the means to pay and have chosen not to. That ends today. Tyler's face went pale. You are ordered to pay all outstanding child support, totaling $4,800, within 30 days. Additionally, your monthly support obligation will increase to $1,500 to account for rising costs. Failure to comply will result in wage garnishment and potential contempt charges. Tyler shot to his feet. Your Honor, that's. Sit down, Mr. Morrison. He's Saturday. Judge Callahan's gaze softened as she looked at Jess. Ms. Morgan, this court recognizes your resilience. Your children are fortunate to have you. Jess's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, Your Honor. The gavel banged. Court adjourned. Tyler stood abruptly, shoving past his lawyer, storming toward the exit. As he passed the back row, Ryder didn't move. Didn't speak. But Tyler felt the weight of 8 pairs of eyes following him out. Jess stood frozen, trembling. David squeezed her shoulder. You did it. She turned toward the back row. Ryder gave a single nod. She nodded back. And for the first time in years, Jess Morgan felt like she'd won. 3 weeks had passed since the court hearing, and Jess's apartment looked different. Not dramatically, it wasn't like she'd won the lottery, but different enough that Emma noticed. Mama, we have juice boxes. Emma exclaimed one morning, opening the refrigerator to find it actually full. Not packed, but full enough that she didn't see empty shelves staring back. Jess smiled from the stove, where she was scrambling eggs. Real eggs. A whole carton she'd bought without calculating every penny 3 times. We do, baby. Grab one for you and your brother. Mason ran in wearing mismatched socks, his hair sticking up in 4 directions. Can I have the red one? You can have the red one. The first child support payment had cleared. $4,800 plus the new monthly amount. Jess had stared at her bank balance for 10 minutes straight, afraid it was a mistake, afraid it would disappear. But it didn't. She'd cried in the grocery store when she realized she could buy fresh fruit without checking the clearance bin first. The cashier had asked if she was okay, and Jess could only nod, clutching a bag of apples like it was gold. That first night, she'd made spaghetti with meat sauce, real ground beef, not the ramen substitutes she'd been using. Emma and Mason ate 2 plates each, and for the first time in months, Jess ate a full portion herself. It felt strange. Almost wrong. Like she was taking something she didn't deserve. But then she remembered Judge Callahan's words, "Your children are fortunate to have you." And she let herself eat. The overdue bills came down one by one. Electric company, paid in full. Water bill, cleared. The notice from the landlord threatening eviction, crumpled up and thrown away, replaced by a receipt showing she was caught up on rent. Jess kept every receipt in a folder, organized by date. It wasn't just proof of payment, it was proof she was rebuilding. Her manager at the diner, a gruff man named Sal who rarely gave compliments, called her into his office one afternoon. "You've been here 4 years, Sal said, leaning back in his chair. "Yes, sir. You work harder than anyone I've got. You show up on time, you handle difficult customers, you train the new hires without complaining." Jess shifted uncomfortably. "I just do my job." "No. You do everyone's job," Sal slid a paper across the desk. "I'm promoting you to shift manager. It's $1.50 more per hour, and you get a cut of tips from the evening crew." Jess stared at the paper, her throat tightening. "Sir, You earned it. Don't argue." She signed before the tears could fall. The bikers still came to the diner. Not every day, but a few times a week. They'd order coffee, pie, burgers. They'd tip well, not excessively, but fairly. Ryder always sat in the same booth. One evening, Jess brought his coffee and lingered for a moment. "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to." "I do, though. You and your crew, you gave me my life back." Ryder looked up, his weathered face softening. "You already had it. We just helped you hold on to it." Jess smiled, blinking back tears. "Still. Thank you." He nodded. "How are the kids?" "Good. Better." Mason's teacher said he's smiling more in class. Emma asked if we could go to the library this weekend, her voice cracked. She hasn't asked to do anything fun in over a year. "Then take her," Ryder said simply. That's what this was all for. Jess wiped her eyes quickly and headed back to the counter. Vince leaned over from the next booth. "She's gaining weight." Malik glanced up. "What?" "Jess. She's healthier. Look at her face, less hollow. She's eating now." Ryder followed their gaze. He'd noticed too. The dark circles under her eyes were fading. Her movements weren't as sluggish. She looked less like she was running on fumes and more like she was actually living. "Good," Ryder said quietly. "Tyler paid the next month's support on time." Exactly on time. No delays, no excuses. David Chun called Jess to confirm. It cleared. He's complying. He won't try to fight it again. He could, but it won't go well for him. The judge made it clear, if he misses even one payment, he's facing contempt charges. He knows that. Jess exhaled slowly. So it's really over. The legal part, yes. Now you just focus on your kids. After she hung up, Jess sat on the edge of her bed and let herself feel it, the relief, the exhaustion, the overwhelming weight lifting off her shoulders. She wasn't rich. She wasn't secure forever. But for the first time in over a year, she wasn't drowning. One Saturday afternoon, Emma tugged on Jess's sleeve. "Mama, can we get ice cream?" Jess's instinct was to calculate how much it cost, whether she could afford it, what bills were coming. But then she stopped herself. She looked at her daughter's hopeful face, at Mason peeking around the corner with the same wide-eyed anticipation. "Yes," Jess said. "Let's get ice cream." They walked to the shop on Main Street, the one with the hand-painted sign and the bench outside. Emma got chocolate chip. Mason got strawberry. Jess got vanilla. They sat on the bench together, eating slowly, laughing when Mason got ice cream on his nose. A motorcycle rumbled past, rider, heading somewhere, hand raised in a casual wave. Jess waved back. Emma looked up. "Mama, who's that?" Jess smiled, watching the bike disappear down the road. "A friend," she said softly. "A really good friend." They finished their ice cream as the sun set behind the buildings, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. And for the first time in a long time, Jess Morgan felt something she'd almost forgotten. She felt safe. For months later, the air smelled like charcoal and summer. Behind Danny's diner, in the gravel lot that usually sat empty after closing, picnic tables had been set up end to end. A grill smoked in the corner, tended by Vince, who took his barbecue as seriously as he took his motorcycle. Coolers full of drinks sat in the shade. Paper lanterns hung from a makeshift canopy, swaying gently in the breeze. The Iron Ridge MC had organized a family cookout, not just for the club, but for everyone. Diner staff, their families, neighbors, kids from the community. No patches. No colors. Just people gathering because they wanted to. Emma and Mason ran across the lot, chasing two other kids in a game of tag that had no clear rules and didn't need any. Emma's laughter echoed, the kind of pure, unburdened sound that only kids who felt safe could make. Jess stood near the drink table, watching them, a paper cup of lemonade in her hand. She wore jeans and a simple white t-shirt. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. She looked rested. Healthy. Present. "Your girl's got speed," Malik said, walking up beside her. She almost caught Hector's nephew. Jess laughed. "She's been eating better. More energy." "Good." Mason ran up, breathless and grinning. "Mama. Can I have a hot dog?" "You already had two." "But I'm still hungry." Jess knelt down, brushing hair from his sweaty forehead. "Okay. One more. But eat it slow, okay?" "Okay." He darted toward the grill. Jess stood, shaking her head with a smile. I never thought I'd hear him say he's still hungry and actually be able to say yes. "That's the point," Malik said quietly. "That's why we did this." Across the lot, Ryder flipped burgers alongside Vince, the two of them bickering about seasoning like an old married couple. Creed was teaching a group of kids how to throw a football. Asha sat at a table with two other women, laughing over something on her phone. It felt easy. Natural. Like family. Sal, the diner owner, approached Jess holding a plate piled high with food. "You eat yet?" "I will." That's not an answer, he handed her the plate. "Eat." Manager's orders. Jess took the plate, her throat tightening. "Thank you, Sal." He grunted, already walking away. "Don't thank me. Just do your job and keep this place running." But she saw the small smile he tried to hide. As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, people started gathering around the tables. Plates full, voices overlapping in easy conversation. Ryder caught Jess's eye from across the lot and gestured toward an empty spot at his table. She hesitated, then walked over, Emma and Mason trailing behind with their plates. "Sit," Ryder said simply. They did. Emma bit into her hot dog, ketchup smudging the corner of her mouth. Mason swung his legs under the bench, humming a tune Jess didn't recognize. "They look happy," Ryder observed. "They are," Jess said softly. "For the first time in a long time, they are." Vince sat down heavily, plate in hand. "Got word from David Chen this morning. Tyler's been paying on time. 3 months straight now." Jess nodded. "I know. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop." "It won't," Malik said, joining the table. "He knows what happens if he tries. And his business reputation's already taken a hit. Word got around about the court case. He can't afford another scandal." Jess exhaled slowly. "I don't want him to suffer. I just want him to take care of his kids." "And now he is," Ryder said. "Because he finally had to face consequences." Emma looked up suddenly. "Mr. Ryder, are you Mama's friend?" Ryder smiled, a rare, genuine smile that softened his usually stoic face. "Yeah, kid. I am." "Good," Emma said matter-of-factly. "Mama needs more friends." Jess's face flushed. "Emma." "She's not wrong," Vince said, grinning. As the evening stretched on, someone turned on a radio. Classic rock drifted through the lot, nothing too loud, just background music that made everything feel warmer. Jess stood at the edge of the gathering, watching as Mason tried to teach Creed the handshake he'd learned at school. Watching Emma help Asha clear plates, taking her new helper role very seriously. Ryder walked up beside her, hands in his pockets. "You did good," he said quietly. "I didn't do anything. You all." "No," his voice was firm but kind. "You fought for your kids every single day, even when you had nothing left to give. That takes a kind of strength most people don't have. We just made sure the fight was fair." Jess looked at him, tears pooling in her eyes. "I don't know what I would have done without you. You would have figured it out. You're tougher than you think." "Maybe," she smiled through the tears. "But I'm glad I didn't have to." Ryder nodded toward the crowd. "This is what it's supposed to look like. People looking out for each other. No one left behind." Jess watched her children laughing, full plates in hand, surrounded by people who chose to care. "Thank you," she whispered. "For showing up when no one else did." Ryder didn't respond with words. He just placed a hand on her shoulder, steady, grounding, the kind of gesture that said more than any speech ever could. They stood there in comfortable silence as the sun finally set, the lanterns glowing softly overhead. Mason ran up, tugging on Jess's hand. "Mama, can we come back next time?" Jess looked at Ryder. He smiled. "Anytime." "Then yes," Jess said, squeezing her son's hand. "We can come back." Emma joined them, leaning against Jess's side. "I like it here." "Me too, baby." From somewhere in the crowd, Vince's voice called out, "Who's ready for pie?" A cheer erupted. Kids scrambled toward the dessert table. Adults laughed and followed. Jess turned to Ryder one last time. "You said good mothers deserve backup." "I did." "Well, thank you for being mine." Ryder tipped his head. "Anytime you need us, we're here. That's the code." As Jess walked toward her children, toward the laughter and light and warmth of people who'd chosen to stand with her, she realized something profound. She wasn't alone anymore. Not because someone rescued her, but because she fought, and people worth knowing had chosen to fight alongside her. And that made all the difference.